So I've always been fascinated by gyroscopes. Ever since I saw a video by Vsauce, I was like, whoa, how does that work? Now compared to just a normal top, the whole thing is spinning, so if you put it on a string like this, the friction just won't make it work that well. Compared to a gyroscope, which only the middle spins, so it really doesn't matter what it's touching on the bottom. And then later on, so when I saw this fidget spinner trick where you put a pen through a fidget spinner, I was like, that's literally a gyroscope. And it reminded me of how the gyroscope worked. So, I needed to get one. And I did. And here's some videos that I made back in 2017. So yeah, gyroscopes are very cool. But now, I saw this video on YouTube just pop up. It's a Lego gyroscope. And I was like, holy shit, it is so simple, yet so brilliant. So, I decided to make it. So I got the spinner working using my big gear. I will now show you what I did. You can see here in my version, I have here 2 motors. They're connected, but only one of them is actually used. So this is the main motor that actually does the work. And then here's a second motor just to add to the torque of the first motor. But yeah, we have here a big gear which I bought. This is not from the set, which basically just gear ratios to make the output spin really fast. So you can see it goes through here, big gear, small gear, big gear, small gear, big gear, small gear. If you see, when I move this slightly, you can see how much the output gear spins. I'm only gonna spin this like this slightly, but you can see how the output gear spins 5 times. Isn't that crazy? So how much rotations would the output gear have, which is 1 rotation on this big gear? But yeah, you don't actually need to spin it this fast to get the gyroscope working. Actually, you can spin this at only like 10%, like kind of this fast. But I just love gears. I don't know. I just love gear ratios and stuff. So, and I think it does get a lot more stable once you spin it really fast. But yeah, compared to the video that I found, I'm using these big gears instead of these normal gears to small gears. Since I already have these, why not just use them? Okay, so after the spinner, I tried putting on a gyroscope and it failed. And so I thought I was duped. Maybe they put something on the tube to make it have more friction so that it grabs onto the gyroscope better. But turns out that I need to give it some rotational speed before it can actually grab on. Or from another video that I found, and they used another end to make it stay first and then release it. And so I tried it and it worked. Now I don't actually know the original creator of the Lego gyroscope, but if you do know, please let me know in the comments section below. But these are the only 2 videos I found on YouTube that feature this. But anyways, I played around with it. It was really cool. So I placed it on the table like that, and it just spun for longer than I thought it would, which is really cool. And then check this out. I put the gyroscope at a 90-degree angle and it just still stayed. And not only that, but it just goes back to its normal position. Now that's cool and all, but I did it at an over 90-degree angle. I actually thought it was gonna fall, and then to my surprise, as you can see in my reaction, and then I tried turning it off while I was spinning, and look at this, it still stayed on.
Oh my god. Wow, how did it even stay on there so long? What the heck?
And you know what? I decided to make this automated. So what I did is put a distance sensor so that when the gyroscope tilts, it will detect something. And that one didn't work that well because the distance sensor was too slow. So I tried it with a color sensor and it worked perfectly because the top of the gyroscope, there's actually a turquoise color so that when it tilts, the color sensor will actually see it when the color sensor is placed at the side. And it makes for a beautiful presentation where the gyroscope actually tilts and then goes back upright and loops. When the gyroscope is being spun, it goes upright, but then when you stop the spinner, the gyroscope tilts until it falls. However, if you do turn it back on, it will just go back upright. So that's what I did. Now that's cool and all, but what I also noticed is that when you turn the spinner off, the gyroscope will not only tilt but also not have enough rotational speed, which makes it so that if you turn it back on, the gyroscope just instantly kind of goes upright, which is not what I want. I want it to go up slower like this. So instead of having an on and off switch, we needed to keep its rotational speed but have it tilt. So I made an arm that kind of grabs the top of the spinner and then tilts it. I actually just using kind of an arm that goes in the XY direction, because when you tilt the gyroscope, you actually need to grab onto it and then tilt it in a C shape and then let go. So the best way I could think of at the time is using just XY. You can see it in action over here. Now that's cool and all, but it's not very stable. Now I was really surprised to see that it's even worked even though it's so unstable. So like, just watch my reaction. Plant. And then... whoop. And then let go.
Wow, that's cool. Nice.
Cross your fingers.
Whoa. Whoa. Huh? Oh my god. Whoa. Oh. Whoa. Whoa. It's like a loop toy now. This is gonna keep going forever. Whoa.
Hope so. Oh, nope. It
What?
failed.
Oh no. Whoa, nice. Whoa.
Let's go.
Nice. What's that is? Whoa.
Uh-oh.
Oh. What?
It's working.
Holy moly.
Oh my god.
Nice. Epic engineering. Whoa.
Yo. Who's the engineer? But yeah, like I said, it's very unstable, not very reliable. However, it does work, so I'm very proud of that. But my brain just thought of something even better. So disregard this XY system. Actually, what we want is an arm that's pivoted at the height of the bottom of the gyroscope so that it's able to produce that C motion. But we need a system that lets it let go and grabs it. So basically, control the rotation and control the up and down. So I achieved the up and down using a gear and rack system, as you can see over here. Here's a clearer view of that. And then I put another motor connecting to the cage so that we get rotational motion. And then once I did all of that, I just realized that the motor was moving instead of the cage, which I was originally intending to do. But actually, thinking about it now, it's a happy accident. Because if I were to build it on the cage, well, I would have to build something high up just for the arm. But because of that, I figured that I could just use it upside down and then put the arm on the motor itself. So you know what? I think that's a blessing. And so I built the thing, and then I tested it out. I've tested this for hours and hours, but it just kept failing. There was no success to this. The fail rate of this was just way too high than I expected. I thought this would be way more stable than the XY system, but turns out it was just clear to me that it wasn't. And you know, for hours I just kept tweaking the code. I kept doing little modifications of the machine. I even recorded footage in slow-mo just to troubleshoot what's going on, why it keeps failing. Still, there was just no success to this. However, I did figure out 3 main problems. First of all, when it grabs the gyroscope, it pushes it down too much, so the gyroscope gets pushed out of place and then falls. So I tried tweaking the settings, making it grab it more delicately, but when it tilts it, it just lets go before it's even supposed to. And because I'm using Scratch instead of Python to build this, I have to use the broadcast function to make 2 functions run at the same time. But it still just wouldn't work. I didn't know if I was doing any calculations wrong. I just couldn't figure out what was the problem. And then the second problem comes with the motors itself. The motors just aren't built for slow speeds. So when you put the motors at speeds less than 10%, it just stutters. Like, it's just not stable enough, not precise enough. It just wasn't built for slow speeds. A solution to that would be, instead of having the motor directly connect to the arm, we would need the motor to connect to a small gear and then the small gear connect to a big gear so that we can get more precise and slower speed. However, I didn't really feel like rebuilding it, so I just kept messing around with the code. And really, I just felt like that it wouldn't really change that much. And now the third problem is, I don't know if it's with Mindstorms, I don't know if it's with Scratch, but for some dang reason, when a function is done playing, it just waits a moment until it goes to the next one instead of just instantly going to the next one. I don't know if it's only a problem with Scratch or Python as well, but I had a good feeling that this was also causing it to fail. Like, for instance, it just waits before it actually releases it, causing the gyroscope to have less speed before it's released. And there was no wait in the code. And And I've been doing this for hours, so this whole process really made me insane. I'm depressed now.
Aw,
It's
no,
okay.
you need some rest.
So I was thinking like, you know what, fuck it. I'll just try out Python and see if it works. And if it doesn't, well, I'm giving up. Alright, we're throwing this in the bin. So you know what? I decided to go to bed, but I didn't actually sleep. After a while, I went back and tried to rebuild some stuff. So you know the problem with the motor at slow speeds? Well, I decided to do the gear ratio, and I came up with this. Now this took 3 hours, not just because of the whole thing, but because of so many previous tests, so many previous failures. You know, I had the motor in the back side over here, I had it behind here, and then it turned out that there wasn't enough space for the gyroscope to spin, so I had to move it, and then eventually I came up with this. So this is actually the final one. This is the final build of the whole machine. Now I'm happy about this. So I went back to sleep. And then the next day I started working on the code. There were some failures to it, so much so that it even gave me a heartburn. But after about an hour or so, I was able to actually make it work. So unfortunately, it does have some fails here and there, but compared to the last build, it has a lot more successes than fails. It's just way more stable overall, and of course this whole thing is perfectly pivoted to where the bottom of the gyroscope would be, so that it would have that precise C motion when tilting. But yeah, the code turned out to be really simple. It's actually super small, and yeah, we are finally done. Now here's a clip of it fully working in its full glory. So yeah, I can finally rest now. Thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace!